thank you for tuning into Tea Time. I'm Chaiti Narula, this time around from Unitech Golf and Country Club in Noida in the outskirts of Delhi. Now, the guest today on my show, well, what can one say about him? He's supposed to be the poster boy for quick service restaurants in India. He's a family man. He's an absolutely avid golfer. He loves his workout. He's humble to the tea. And of course, he's the CEO of Jubilant Foodworks and responsible for making Domino's what it is today in India. Joining me today is the CEO of Jubilant Foodworks Limited, Ajay Kaul.
On the show this week, we have Ajay Kaul, CEO, Jubilant Foodworks.
You don't have to now tell people that it's a meal replacement because it is. You know, 70% of our consumption happens around dinner and lunchtime, and it is a full-fledged meal replacement. That's a big change that has happened.
In news, Rory McIlroy wins British Open and Lydia Ko wins Marathon Classic.
Ajay Kaul, welcome to Tea Time.
Hey, hi Chaiti, how are you?
Very well, thank you for welcoming me on your home course, which is the Unitech Golf Course. And what a lovely way to tee off without a tee. I mean, intimidating as it may seem, I don't think I can play with you. Really,
No,
it's
not
amazing.
at all. It's, over the years, that's how it has evolved with me.
How do you tee off without a tee?
See, I've never gone through coaching in golf.
Really?
And what the basic I realize is that if, without these external helps like a tee and all that, if you
Right.
can get your game correct, I think that you're closer to the game. The more you get used to the tee, the more it's facilitating you in the tee shot. But as you progress onto the course, it becomes that much more difficult and intimidating. So, there is no tee in my life as far as my golfing life is concerned.
You definitely like your own fair share of challenges, I can see. So, you know, talking about challenges now, when you took over Domino's Pizza about 9 years ago, and today where we see Domino's Pizza, 700 outlets across 142 cities. How did you manage to create this story? I'm intrigued to know that.
See, first and foremost, it can't be a one-man's job. If it
Right.
seems like a big thing done,
Right.
it has to be a team effort. And I just don't want to walk away with the credit for that, honestly. It is, today we have 26,000 employees in this company.
Sure.
So it surely cannot be a one-man's job. But I think, and I can go back to the time when I joined the company, while they were in own sets of challenges at the time, but I think I inherited a very good team. A few changes were of course made, but more than that, I think people heading various functions, I think are some of the best guys you can get in the business.
Right.
That helped. I must also give credit to luck, but I would also say that yes, we did get some parts of the strategy, whether it was overall business strategy, marketing strategy, operational strategy. I think most importantly, because the people were right, we are where we are today.
Talking about people now, at that point of time, the company was not really doing very well. The company hadn't even launched its IPO, and it was getting a bit of a difficult task to hold on to your old employees because people were quitting, and you could not even offer increments at that point of time, but you did give them that vision and asked them to hold on to the company, hold on to that vision, soon launched an IPO, gave them ESOPs. They all turned into millionaires today
Yeah,
after
they
the
deserved
IPO,
it
isn't
also.
it?
I must say in the same breath, yeah.
I mean, how did you convince people to stay on? Because people management today is one of the biggest challenges one faces, especially with 26,000 workforce that you have today.
You know, one of the things which I came with a mandate in mind that we had to take this company public someday.
Right.
We also had aspirations of bringing in more brands beyond Domino's. So the name also had to be rechristened. So thereby Jubilant Foodworks came into existence
Right.
and stuff like that. 26,000 employees, as I said a little while back, is what we have today. So what we did is we embarked on what I call our ambition. And every 3 years we changed that ambition a bit. But this was like a dream. See, people get hired with our heads on our shoulders itni sale, itna EBITDA, profit, and all those kind of things.
Right.
These ambition are basically quality discipline. I often say they come straight from the heart.
Sure.
What do I want my company to be in, let's say, 3-5 years' time? So while you are chasing those big, audacious, hairy, audacious goals, you're also using your heart to kind of make it a people-oriented company,
Right.
most loved company,
Right.
Mera Domino's, Mera Dunkin'
Right.
Donuts kind of stuff. So we came out with that charter, and mind you, every single employee, that time we were 3-5,000, today we are 25, every employee carries a card in his or her pocket today, which kind of says what those 6 things are. It's in their heads, and they're practicing it every day. It's in their KRAs and stuff. I think employees, by and large, understand the relevance, how they can make a difference to the organization. I may
Sure.
be that guy going and delivering pizzas at your residence.
Right.
So what difference do I make to the company? But if there is something which is tying me back to the organization,
Right.
is one key point. I'm making a difference to this company, although it's got 26,000 employees. We have tried to institutionalize fun in the company. Couple of things I'm talking about here. There are 20 things which we do, but net, you struck the nail on the head.
Right.
That unless you do not engage employees, and often when these Hewitt Best Employer surveys are done or Great Place to Work, we often find our name in that list of best employers in the country. Gives me a lot of pride. We are not the best paying company, let me be honest.
Sure.
We are not an Infosys. We are not a Colgate Palmolive.
Right.
But we feature in that list. Why? Definitely not because we don't pay well, but definitely because employees are engaged.
They're
And
having
they
fun
think
at work.
they are linked to the company and they want to give it back to the company.
On that happy note, I'll tee off and we continue.
Good
our
luck, and let's see
conversation.
one cracking shot now. Good shot.
Thank you. So let's talk about pizza drones now. Recently in Bombay, we realized, since you also have the promise of delivering a pizza in 30 minutes time, recently there was this pizza company in Mumbai that delivered pizza through a drone now.
Right.
How is that paradigm changing? Are you planning to have drones floating around in the sky as well, as far as your brand is concerned?
Surprisingly, our UK partner, our enterprise in the UK, had done a drone testing delivery
Right.
a year back.
Right.
You probably are aware of that. So it's nothing
Right.
new. And subsequently, if you know, even Amazon delivered something as insipid as a book
Absolutely,
to
absolutely.
somebody's house. But and that's the time when we actually started exploring the space
Right.
as to if that is going to be the shape of things to come.
Yeah.
So what does it mean in the Indian context?
Right.
And so we were in discussion with even Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and a few other such government bodies as to kind of understand the space. What we realize is that it's great. It's great news creating thing.
Right.
But space management and how it gets deregulated and how they allow all sorts of drones to be flying
Right.
all over the place.
Right.
We believe it's few years, if
Few
not
years away
decades,
from,
decades to kind of go.
reality, right? When you launched Domino's here in India, it was perceived to be a very snacky brand. I would snack on a Domino's, but I wouldn't dine over a Domino's. But
Okay.
over the years, what we have seen is more and more families want to go dine.
Well said. Well said.
I mean,
is
is that a fair observation?
Oh, absolutely. And there's an irony there also. We used to, if you remember our Hungry Kya,
Yes,
the idea
yes.
was to create the perception in the consumer's mind that we are a meal replacement.
Right,
We are not a snack.
right.
The consumer would also tell us that you are a snack, boss. You are
Not
are
a
not.
meal.
I will have my dal roti and my chawal at the end of the day.
Right.
But still, even in those days, 50-60% of our consumption used to happen at peak lunch and dinner times.
Dinner times, yeah.
So knowingly, unknowingly, the consumer would still consume this thing called pizza at an 8 o'clock or a 9 o'clock.
Right.
I don't know whether he would follow it up with still a roti in the end, just to kind of give himself the feeling that I had my meal still.
Correct.
But over the years, you are right. We don't have to now tell people that it's a meal replacement because it is. 70% of our consumption happens around dinner and lunchtime, and it is a full-fledged meal replacement. That's a big change that has happened, where it's a good mix of Indian flavors, some international flavors, a good high veg mix versus non-veg. So I think the interesting piece today is that it's a bit of a potpourri. To get that insight out, which to read the consumer's mind is that much more difficult in this terrain. But I think we have done it probably better than our opposition, and that's why we're where we are today.
Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time and welcome back. Now, the country had witnessed a slowdown. In fact, as of last September, the growth figures have been abysmal, 4.8 thereabout percent. And we've also seen the price hike of about 10% across the board in the country as well. How much of India's private final consumption expenditure is getting impacted, and what are you doing at Jubilant Foodworks to beat this trend?
I think last 1 year, 1.5 years have been tricky. And why we get questioned more often than probably anybody else is because we have also demonstrated 30-40% like store growth, if you understand, like store growth in our industry. System level growths of even 61% in 1 year.
Right.
You know, whether it's acquiring new customers, whether it's frequency of the various subgroups that we have, frequency of consumption, we are seeing across the board. And this is a phenomena which even goes, you know, from metro cities to tier 4 cities as small as maybe Hubli and stuff like that. Consumption has dropped. So this is good and bad news. The good news is that it's happening all over the country, so it isn't at a structural level that we are getting something is wrong with our act.
Right.
And when we look at our opposition also at a category or an industry level, everybody is impacted, even more than us. So we have been gaining market shares irrespective, but that doesn't give us joy because we are not growing at the same pace because of the same reason. The bad news, however, is that for the last 3-4 quarters, our like store growth has been in single digit, 0 and thereabouts. While we may be adding 150, 160 stores on Domino's and Dunkin' also, we have done 20 odd last year. It is a matter of worry, and given the stagflation situation, which means stagnation on one hand and inflation, which is like an unprecedented high, is making life tough for people like definitely me and a lot of other people. We are controlling it in our own ways. We are working with our business partners. We have demonstrated growth to them over the last 5-6 years. CAGR 46% growth.
Oh, really?
So we work with them. We even deploy Six Sigma in our company for efficiencies. We deploy it even in their companies. So that even though for the outside world, the so-called inflation may be double digit, we still end up getting probably a mid-single digit kind of an inflation. But still, that's difficult to handle, especially when your growth is at 0% and so on the same store level.
You seem to be very positive about the market, just like the way the rest of the market is very positive on riding on the sentiment of PM Modi now. You are planning expansion now. I think in the next 1 year or so, you target launching about 150 odd Domino Pizza stores as well. How are these funds coming in? Internal accruals? Are you planning to raise funds from outside? Let's go over your fundraising plans.
Everything is internal. If you are aware, we became debt-free nearly 3-4 years back. And we continue to be debt-free. All our capital expenditure, this year, for example, we intend to spend around 250, 260 crores. And thereabouts on capital expenditure. A lot of it is store driven, but also we are creating 4 new factories, which you may or may not be aware, basically keeping future in mind. And I often say this, we have not changed our capital plan, expenditure plan at all, because we are building a company for future. Now all these, one in Hyderabad, one in Nagpur, one in Guwahati, under construction should get commissioned in the next 3-4-5 months. There's a mega facility coming up in Noida here, Greater Noida. Which is like mother of all commissaries ever created anywhere in the world, which is going to serve probably 400 stores and stuff like that. So all this is going to be consuming around 150-200 crores over a 1.5-2 year period. No change at all in this, because while there may be some impediments in the short run, we are creating a company for future. All this is going to happen through internal funding. We are still generating enough cash, which we believe is going to take care of all this. So we should not be ideally going, outside, to borrow money.
All right, let's continue our game and we continue talking after that.
Sure.
Come. So now let's talk about taxation. It's a huge issue for you in the restaurant industry as well. Eats up a lot into your margin front. How are you battling with that issue?
I don't think so. We are losing our sleep over that, but some, call it out of the blue rules, which kind of last April, if you remember, there was this service tax thing which came in.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, those come unprecedented. And the funny thing is that the consumer today is paying nearly 4.96% more than he was paying a year back, apart from all the other price increases that we do. So in a year,
we're talking about inflation as well.
Where inflation is as it is there, it's killing. And it
Right.
is showing in the consumers,
Right.
a lot of the consumption things which we talked about, it's playing havoc there. If there are no other, I would say, unrealistic moves by the government in terms of bringing taxation into the system, I think we'll be fine. We are waiting eagerly for the GST to come in,
Come in
and a lot of our lives will get simplified thereafter.
Absolutely. Before we wind this segment, of course, let's touch upon the food price inflation as well. When do you think we will be able to control these food price inflation numbers? Because that's something that, eats up into your margin quite a lot.
See, the government has to play a big role. They are already making the right noises, call it the right sound bites.
Right.
They are giving in terms of controlling onion, which
Right.
was a call it a nemesis last year.
Right.
Milk prices, again leading to cheese and all that. These are the two big worries for us. We believe government is trying to do, and we work very closely with them, and we understand, we know the inside story. They are trying to do something to kind of regulate them. But is it going to bring down the food inflation to a low single-digit level in the short run? The answer is no. Good one.
Thank you. Hi, welcome back. Now, the economic slowdown has really been quite prolonged, and consumers are wary of spending at the moment. We're also seeing quick service restaurants like y'all getting into aggressive promotional mode as far as this is concerned. But it's somewhere a double-edged sword in many manners, because it does eat up into your profit margins in the attempt to boost volume. Would you agree with me?
Oh yes, at a general level, what you're saying is right. I often say this, that last year, out of the 9 years I've spent in this company, has been probably the most exciting year for me, because it has also brought the best out of me and my team.
Right.
Certain things which you would normally never embark upon in good times, tough times always tend to make you that much more innovative.
Right.
They tend to kind of push you to the hilt and make you do those kind of things.
Right.
In the last 1 year, the kind of, call it, at an operational level, at a marketing level, at a product launch level, I think the kind of things that we have done, we would have probably never dreamt of doing that before.
A very interesting shift that we're seeing in the QSR market, where people are going really on one of those websites like a foodpanda.in or deliverychef.in. They're logging on to Zomato. They're making orders through their mobile apps. And M-commerce, do you think, is the next big space that QSR restaurants like y'all will be getting into?
Absolutely. We are already there, but it's a medium of facilitation for consumption.
Right.
As more and more consumers, in some ways you may argue, are becoming ultra nuclearized, because the world just revolves around them, and wherever they are, they could order and not come into contact with anybody from the outside world. It has got its own social ramifications, but I'm not going to go into that space here. But yes, such mediums are going to make people absolutely independent and not at all dependent on this thing. They can order their pizzas and so on. In countries like Australia, for example, for us, 60% of all business actually comes through the internet. There are a few stores recently which Australia did. 100% ordering is through the internet.
Oh, fantastic.
100%.
Really?
So Australia is at that, USA also is at 40-45%. India will go through that route as well.
Through the grapevine also, I know how persistent you are with your game. Your love for the game exudes, because everyone, including a caddy to coaches to the people who are managing the golf course as well, I have spoken to them offline, and they have told me about your good nature. They've told me about how humble you are as a human being, and they've also told me how particular you are about your game as well. What is it about this game that excites you, and is this game one of the reasons that keeps you so humble?
No, this game has got its own pluses. I often say this, while to outsiders sometimes golf is no game because there is no physical activity, which normally people say is the game.
Right. They don't even call it a sport. They call it a game.
Absolutely.
Right.
And somebody like me who is otherwise a fitness freak, because I run every morning, even if I have to play golf, I will still run and come here and all that. So to me, I should be saying, hey, listen, walking some 4, 5, 6 miles in the morning is no exercise. But I think intrinsically in the game, there are 3, 4 things which are very, very, I think, important.
Right.
One is, I think, you're playing with yourself.
Correct.
And like in any other game, you can blame the world. You can blame Sachin Tendulkar on his best day will say that Brett Lee ball was unplayable and I got out. And I'm not Sachin Tendulkar, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But here you can't blame anybody. You have to blame yourself. So you better come to terms with it's you.
Right.
So you have to do something about it.
Correct,
You know.
correct.
Also, it's a game which, there are no referees. There are no people who come and kind of tell you that, yes, your scorecard was so much. There's a lot of trust within the 3-4 people which you are playing with. So it kind of thrives on that concept of trust. And finally, I would say, zoning in. There is no other game which actually pushes you to zone in as much as golf does. I think it makes you focused, it makes you that much more patient, and that's one thing I can vouch for.
Right.
Because over a 10-15 minute per hole, you're playing just 3 or 4 or 5 shots. So it is kind of pushing you to become more patient and kind of think through every single shot which you're playing. I'm not rationalizing here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people tell you that, hey, what the hell do you do over this 5-hour period? Hit some 80, 90 shots
Right.
and feel great about it.
Right.
Go and play squash or some tennis
Something
and all
more,
that instead.
yeah.
But I think it has got its, something draws you back.
And on such a fantastic note, let's finish our game now.
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Ajay, for joining me on
Great
Tea
game,
Time.
great game. Thanks for your time.
Thank you
And
so
great,
much.
Great. We had a great time. Yeah.
Likewise. On that note, it's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula, and Ajay Kaul, the CEO of Jubilant Foodworks Limited. I will see you next week again with another interesting guest from an entirely different sector altogether. Until then, enjoy the flight of a good drive.